Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. Again, my name is Mickey. I'm a wildlife biologist from the Wildlife Learning Center. Raise your hand if you've been there before. Anybody?
I've been there for a field trip.
You've been there for a field trip? Awesome. So the Wildlife Learning Center basically is a place for animals that have nowhere else to go. So some of our animals are coming from the wild, like they got an injury or their mothers left them, or they're coming from an illegal pet situation. So there's a lot of animals that are around the world that you're not allowed to have as pets. It's not nice to keep them as pets, and it's not good for the species as a whole. So we have some illegal pets. Some of our animals are coming from other zoos. Like some of our animals came from the LA Zoo because they didn't fit in over there. And then lastly, we have animals that were legal pets. So like if someone had a pet snake that they didn't want anymore, they'll bring it to the Wildlife Learning Center, and we take care of them, and our goal is to educate. So to teach children and adults all alike about these animals so that we can therefore approach conservation. Does anybody know what that word means, conservation? Anybody? Basically, to put it into simple terms, it's just a way that we're working to save animals. So we're experiencing a big extinction of animals. You guys know what extinction means? Yeah, like the dinosaurs went extinct, right? So we're facing a big extinction event. So it's good that we're here learning about animals so we can learn to save them. So do you guys want to see some animals? Yeah. Do you want to learn about some animals? Yeah. Well, before we do that, we need to follow some rules, okay? Now, I know that we're not in school, and we're trying to have a fun summer vacation, but we still need to follow rules, especially today, because these animals, they might be afraid of you if you don't help me follow these rules. So will everybody help me follow these rules?
Yeah.
Awesome. So rule number 1, we have to stay as quiet as possible. You can hear that I already have a mic hooked up to my voice, so that might be a little loud already. So if we talk and play with each other, that might increase the volume, and that might scare the animals. Because loud predators, like a lion or a tiger, those are usually the most dangerous. So we want to be as quiet as possible. Just be very quiet. So in order to help us keep quiet too, what do we do if we have something to say? Show me what we do when we have something to say or a question. Awesome, yeah, we raise our hands. And then we want to stay seated. Rule number 2 is stay seated. You don't want to be moving around because fast movements and movements in general can also scare animals. So imagine if you're walking along, you're a deer, and you see something fast moving right by you. What might it be? A cheetah, maybe. We don't have cheetahs here, though, where they're hunting deer, but maybe like a mountain lion or a bear or a wolf or something like that. The gist of it is that fast movements or just sudden movements might scare these animals. So we want to try to stay seated and not be moving around too much. All right? Now, if you guys follow these rules, we'll have a great time. If you don't, I'll have to put the animals away because these animals are my friends and I protect my friends. Do you guys protect your friends too? Yeah, exactly. So let's all protect my friends as well because then it makes it safer for me and the animals. All right, can everybody follow those rules for me? All right, we're going to get started. Now, this animal might scare you, but I'll promise you it won't hurt you. I won't let it get you. He's very nice, but some people are afraid of these animals. This right here is caw. So if you like an animal, let me see a thumbs up. If you don't like an animal, you can put a thumbs down, but I hope you like all the animals. So this right here is caw. And caw is a ball python. So ball pythons are found living in West Africa. They're found living in forested regions. So areas where this coloration can help them. What word am I thinking of? What can they? Camouflage, exactly. They have perfect coloration for camouflage. So what they like to do is they like to sit in the grass or in some dirt or near a fallen tree. And they curl up into a ball. Get it? Ball python. And they wait for food. Now, is this animal going to be eating salads? Is this animal going to be eating cotton candy? No. Raise your hand and tell me what you think they eat. What do you think? Yeah.
Small mice.
Small mice, small mammals, small animals. So can everybody say carnivore? Carnivore. This animal is a carnivore, which means it strictly eats meat. Now, in order to eat something like a mouse or like a bird, is it going to be able to grab it with its arms and its hands? No. How does it do that? It doesn't have any. So a cool way that they attack their food, they're called ambush predators. So hands down for a second. I'll answer questions in a bit. They're ambush predators, which means they sit and wait. They sit for a long time. They can go months without eating. And they'll sit by the trail of a rat or a mouse, and they'll sit there and they'll be smelling with their nose, right? Do they smell with their nose?
No.
How do they smell?
Tongue.
So they're sitting there smelling with their tongue, waiting for an animal to cross by, and then they strike very quickly, and they grab it, constrict it with their body, because this is not a venomous snake, but they're constrictors. So they squeeze that animal, and they swallow it completely whole. Now, if you had jaws like a snake, you could swallow a watermelon in one bite. And that's because they have 4 jawbones in their mouth. And you could feel your jawbone. It's just one big jawbone, so we can't open that well. It opens kind of like a door. But for a snake, if everybody wants, watch. So you could do it after me too. This is how we open our mouth, right? But if you were a snake, you'd have 2 bones on the right and 2 bones on the left. And instead of opening like this, you open like this. So they can expand their mouth extremely wide. So it would be like for us if you could drop your jaw all the way to your belly button. Anybody can do it? Try. Anybody? No, not quite, because we're not like snakes. Now they swallow their food in one bite. It's pretty interesting. Here, hands down, 1 second, okay? Don't tire out your arm yet. So these animals can swallow their food in one bite. They might eat one thing of food, and that could last them for weeks, for months, a long time. They can go without eating for a long time. And the reason is because of what type of animal they are. So can everybody say ectothermic? That's the scientific way of saying cold-blooded. So basically, all of their bodily processes are vulnerable to the temperature. So when it's really hot outside, they're really warm, they got a lot of energy, but if it's really cold outside, they can't really move that much. And that controls their metabolism, their heart rate, their blood pressure, everything like that. So in the winter time, when it gets cold around here, do we see a lot of bugs and lizards and snakes? No, because they don't want to be out. But in the summertime, you start seeing a lot of flies, a lot of bugs, a lot of lizards, because they like it when it's nice and warm. Even mosquitoes. Now, a cool thing about caw, so ball pythons and pythons in general, not only are they snakes and they have the cool adaptions that snakes have, but they also have another adaption that not all snakes have. Now, if you look at his face, he does have little nostrils like we do, so he can breathe, but he also has heat-sensing pits. So imagine if on your lip you had a bunch of little holes, and you could feel heat that way. And that's how they find something like a rat or a mouse as well. So they're smelling, but they're also sensing the heat. So if everybody touches their fingers to their skin, and if you hold it there for a while, you'll feel it warming up. Do you feel it? Now can everybody say endothermic? That means that we are warm-blooded, which means we don't care about what temperature it is outside. Our bodies will always stay hot on the inside. So they're looking for that heat that a rat or a mouse will emit, and then they can catch it. And then they swallow it whole, and then they might not eat again for like a month, depending on the circumstances. Now, snakes are perceived as scary. A lot of people are afraid of them. But that's just because they don't know about them. So that could teach you a thing. If you learn about something, maybe you won't be so afraid of it. Because these guys are cool. They're not aggressive, so they're not going to see you and want to attack you. They're only going to defend themselves. So if you appear threatening to the snake, that's when they get dangerous. But even a rattlesnake doesn't want to pick a fight with you because we're much bigger animals than they are. Cobras wouldn't want to really pick a fight with us either because can they eat us? No, they can't eat us. A king cobra couldn't eat us, so it wouldn't want to attack us unless we were being threatening, unless we were dangerous. But if you leave it, what do we do when we have something to say? Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So when they are feeling threatened, that's when they attack. So if you learn about how snakes are and how reptiles are and even bugs and everything, you'll understand that they're not out to get us. They're just out here to survive, just like we are. Okay, I have a room for a couple questions. Couple questions, yeah.
Some snakes can eat deer.
Maybe like an anaconda, possibly, yeah. You have a question?
So I have 2 questions. So I know that snakes eat worms.
Eat worms. I don't know about that. Maybe not worms.
Blinking up there.
Okay, were those questions, though? Raise your hand if you know what a question is. Anybody? So when you ask a question, I don't want to hear you telling a story. I'd love to another time, but we're trying to learn something. So maybe when you raise your hand, let's ask a question, a who, what, when, where, or why statement. For example, if you saw Caw, you could be like, why is he so cute? And I'd be like, I don't know, but I agree. So that's an idea of a question. Now, does anybody have another question that they want to ask? A question? You got one? Let me see if you got one. That's an amazing question. Everybody hear that? She said, how do snakes get away from predators? Well, for one, camouflaging. So blending in. Not being seen is a great way to escape predators. But also, a lot of animals don't want to mess with snakes because they can be very dangerous. But for one, camouflage. If not, they might try to bite them, or they might try to climb up a tree or go into a hole. But they don't really have a lot of big weapons for, like, say, a big animal. Unless they're venomous, then they have their venom. All right, we got to move on. We're going to move on to our next animal. So everybody say, see you later. All right, our next animal is pretty cute. So that animal is from Africa. This animal is from South America. So her name is Inca because of her region where they're from. And she is... Thumbs up, thumbs up. So this is a chinchilla. These animals are found in the Andes Mountains in South America, and they are actually related to rats and mice. They are, can everybody say it, rodent? They are a rodent. Now, contrasting to Ka, the ball python, this animal, can everybody say herbivore? It is an animal that will be looking for grasses and seeds, and in captivity where they're abundant, we can give them fruits and vegetables as well. But in the wild, they're going to be walking around rocks, burrowing in holes, all looking for seeds and grasses and stuff like that. Now, as a rodent, they have very big teeth. We'll see another rodent later, and you'll see their teeth. But for this animal, they have very long incisors. Can everybody show me your smile? Beautiful. Those first two teeth and those bottom two teeth that you have, those are your incisors. Actually, we have 4 on top and bottom. And those incisors help us chomp and chop things. And for them, their incisors keep growing their whole life, kind of like our fingernails. So what happens when your fingernails get too long? What do you got to do? Clip them or file them down. Same thing for them. When their teeth get too long, they have to file them down, usually by chewing on like a piece of bark, maybe a rock, maybe a metal bar, something like that. Anything that they can find that's pretty tough, they're going to chew on it to refine their teeth. Now, as an animal that lives in burrows, little holes in the ground or little dens in the rocks, do you think there's a lot of light underground? Do you think you could see that well underground? No, so they have these really big whiskers. Now, you could think of whiskers as almost like having fingers on your face. So they can stick those whiskers out to the side, move them around, and feel everything around them, especially when they're walking underground. That helps them feel around. Now, these animals will live in groups, so they're social, kind of like us, and they'll protect each other. They'll look out for each other. So if they do see a predator, they can call out, and they'll all climb into their holes away from that predator. But if they are walking around in the dirt, and they're still trying to hide from predators, they have a pretty good method of doing so. So if I was walking around on sand, what would my feet leave behind? Tracks, footprints, exactly. And as a predator, you could find those tracks, and you can hunt the animal by looking at those tracks. But this animal with the big bushy tail of theirs, while they're walking, they can swipe their tail back and forth, and they can hide their tracks. And that's a great way to avoid predators. Now, this animal also, I forgot to mention, one of the softest animals in the world. If you come to the Wildlife Learning Center, you can pet one of these. Here, there's just a little too many people for Inca today. But their hair is about 30 times as thick as ours is. So if you imagine one of your hairs, imagine there would be 30 hairs there instead. So their hair is actually so thick, they can't get wet. If they get wet, it might soak down to their skin, and they might not dry. So these guys, which you can see a little bit, I have dust on my shirt. That's because they take dust baths or dirt baths. The idea is that they roll in the dirt. It absorbs whatever they have on their body, like flies or germs, and then they can just shake it off. And that keeps them pretty clean. These guys can be pets. They're pretty cool pets. You just got to remember that they can't get wet, and they can't get too hot either. So like on a day like this, when it's really hot or just all summer long, you have to have a lot of air conditioning because these guys are going to overheat with all that fur. All right, does anybody have any questions for Inca the chinchilla? We're going to keep it to a minimum so we can keep moving. Yeah. Are they from Canada? These guys aren't from Canada, but you can have them as pets in Canada, so you might have seen them in like your local pet store or something. Yeah.
So like, how do they survive through the summer? Because they have so
So in the summer, when it does get maybe pretty warm in places like South America, then they could probably burrow underground, so away from the sun where the soil holds in a lot more moisture and maybe a lot more cold air. They wouldn't want to be out in the sun because, yeah, they can overheat. Awesome. One more, yeah.
How big could they be?
How big can they be? She's about full size. So this is about as big as a chinchilla is going to get in captivity. They might be a little bit longer, a little bit larger in the wild, but this is about the size that they are in captivity. Awesome. All right, everybody say bye, Inca. Okay, our next animal, you guys might think it's pretty cool, but their species and their grouping of animals as a whole might get a bad rap because a lot of people are afraid of these. So can everybody say arthropod? Now, you might be familiar with arthropods. Actually, I'm pretty sure you all are. Arthropods include lobsters and shrimp and crabs and spiders and roly-polies and walking sticks. So, shh, let's be quiet. Let's be quiet. So walking sticks are a type of insect. And you can see they're pretty good at climbing on things. So let's bring it down. So walking sticks are a type of insect in that big phylum known as Arthropoda. And arthropods, like walking sticks and shrimp and crabs, are actually probably the most successful animal on the planet. You'll find them everywhere. Now, what makes an insect is they got 6 legs. And they usually have wings, too. These guys, they don't need wings anymore because they live in trees more so. So they don't need wings. And they also have a crunchy exoskeleton. Can everybody say exoskeleton? That's the exact opposite of we have, which is an endoskeleton. And their bones, they don't have bones on the inside of their body. They just have a nice hard shell. And inside that shell is a nice fluid membrane, we call it. So basically the way they move is they push, you can think of it like water, through their body to make it move. Whereas we use our muscles that are attached to our bones. Now, these walking sticks, as you can see, they look like sticks. Therefore, their names are Twiggy and Twiggy. And I'll go over why they're actually the same name as well. But as walking sticks, they have a pretty simple life. They climb up into trees, and they act like sticks. And that keeps them surviving, because they do eat leaves and stuff like that. And the way that they avoid predators is by looking like a stick. But they don't only mimic the way it looks, but the way it behaves too. So imagine if you saw a little twig on a tree and a gust of wind came, what would happen to the twig? It might fly away, but it might just sway in the wind. So when they're hanging from a tree, their arms are going to be like going like this. And you could see it sometimes. They do it when they're even here. And they'll wave their arms back and forth so it looks like they're actually swaying with the wind. And actually a lot of animals will do that. Chameleons do that. That's why they walk so funny, because they're trying to act like a swaying leaf or something like that. So these guys are really cool because they're very good at mimicking their surroundings. Now the reason why I call this one Twiggy and this one Twiggy is because they might be exact copies of themselves. So this Twiggy might be the exact same as this Twiggy, because when there's no boys around, which that happens a lot with insects like this, then they have to reproduce without any partners. And the way they do that is they clone themselves. They make these little eggs out of their own body that are just complete copies of themselves. It's pretty cool. And that's a good way to survive and pass on your generation and your genes, especially if you have good genes like these guys. So instead of risking it by having a partner and possibly causing a mutation, they can just form exact copies of themselves to survive. And for that reason, this one's Twiggy and this one's Twiggy, because they might be the exact same walking stick. Now, bugs get a bad rap, like I was saying. Bugs are usually scary to people. People think they're gross, but that's just because they're different from us. Should we be afraid and be scared of everything that's different from us? No, we shouldn't. So these animals, even though they're different, they look completely alien to us, they're trying to do the same thing that we are. They're trying to eat, they're trying to sleep, they're trying to survive, just like us. Now, do you think, even if this was a spider right now, do you think a spider that's this big is going to be trying to pick a fight with me? No, because I could easily just shoo it away, flick it off my hand. So bugs are really no competition to us, except for mosquitoes. But most bugs can't really harm us unless we give them reason to, just like the snake. So if you see a spider in your house, or you see a bug walking around outside, you don't need to kill it because there's no reason to. They're trying to clean up the environment. Flies, they eat poop. Do you want to clean up all the poop? No. Spiders, they eat flies. Do you want there to be tons of flies around? No. And even cockroaches, they clean up our trash because we don't want to do it. So these animals are surviving in an environment that we have taken over. So do you think bugs or us were here first? Bugs. Bugs. And bugs will be here probably a lot longer after we are too. So they're just trying to survive just like we are. So next time you see a bug, even if you are scared, that's your body telling you that you've been taught to be scared. But you don't need to be. You can realize that these animals are not here to hurt you. They're just trying to survive. All right, any questions for Twiggy and Twiggy? Yes, right here. Why are they the most successful? That's a great question. So for one, some insects don't live that long. So that by the time they have kids, their kids have kids, their kids have kids, their kids have kids, it only could be like in 1 year possibly. And in that time, that gives you a lot of time to adapt. So when you're, like say, my parents were bugs, and I'm a bug. If my parents were bugs and they lived in an area where it was very dangerous, well, maybe they'll pass on genes that will help me survive in that dangerous environment. And then maybe my kids will even be better survived. And that doesn't happen in animals like us for millions of years. But for animals like this, it could happen very rapidly because they don't live that long and they have a lot of babies. And these guys also survive very well because they're so tiny. They can live in areas we can't. They can survive things we can't. They can eat things we can't. And that's part of the reason why they're pretty successful. That was a great question. Any other questions? Yes.
What country are they from?
So walking sticks can be found all over the world. So there's some that live in the deserts of California. There's some that live in Arizona. There's some that live all, in Florida, everywhere across the United States. These ones are actually from Southeast Asia. So they're found all around the world. From Canada, there might be other species in Canada, but not this one probably, unless it was a pet. One more, yeah. Why do walking sticks look the same? Because what are they trying to look like? And do you think a lot of sticks look the same? Yeah, it's because they want to look like sticks. All right, we're going to put these guys away. Say bye, Twiggies. All right, you guys are doing an awesome job. Just remember, we want to try to stay as quiet as possible. So, shh, let's bring down the volume because I'm going to be bringing out animals that have sensitive hearing. Now, all the animals that I have here are actually pretty good at hearing, so we want to still stay quiet even when they're not out because they don't just disappear when I put them away. They're still all right here. So this one is from Africa. We're going back to Africa. And this one is actually has been bred to be a pet. But we can't have them actually as pets in California. This is Checkers. And Checkers is a hedgehog. So remember, thumbs up if we like the animal, thumbs up. So this is an African pygmy hedgehog, and pygmy just means it's a smaller version of the ones that are in the wild. So people took these animals from the wild hundreds of years ago and started breeding them in captivity, kind of like how we do with dogs, and they've gotten smaller over time to be kept as pets. But in California, we can't have these as pets because people can be careless with their pets. And if you release this animal into the wild, it could probably do really well because it will have no predators. Nothing's going to want to eat it, and this animal eats a lot of bugs. So it can actually cause a lot of animals to possibly go extinct just by being released into the wild. And in our state, we rely on agriculture. It's a big source of our economy. So if we ruin the environment by introducing an invasive species, we could possibly ruin our agriculture as well because animals play a big part in fertilizing our fields and stuff like that. So for that matter, they're not legal here in California. You could go to another state and own one, but not here. Now these animals are pretty cool. They got spines all over their body to protect themselves. You guys think you want to take a bite out of this? No, probably not. And that's because those, you all stay seated, stay seated. I'm just putting her down so she's not too scared right now. And I can lift her up in a second. But those spines will protect her. She can roll into a ball to protect herself. Now what she also can do is called, can everybody repeat after me, say anointing. That means that she takes something very stinky, maybe something toxic, and she chews it up and she spits it on her back. Can you guys try that? Can you guys chew something up? Can you guys even reach back there? No, not really. But they do that very easily, and that's a way that they can mask their scent. Does anybody have a dog at home? Have you ever seen your dog go up to a pile of something and roll in it? Well, sometimes they'll do that. They'll roll in poop and dead animals and stuff like that. And that's because they're trying to hide the way they smell so that other animals don't know they're there. So these hedgehogs will do that as well. Because some animals can eat them, but by hiding their scent, they cannot be detected as easily. Now these guys are not like rodents. They're not related to them. They're actually in a different grouping of animals that are more closely related to moles and shrews and stuff like that. Oh, and it looks like she peed on me a little bit. All right, does anybody have any questions for this animal? Yeah. Huh? Where do they live? These guys will live on the plains of Africa, actually. And some species are found in Europe, too. They get their name because they like to live in bushes, hedges, and they look like little pigs, so hogs. Awesome. Any other questions? Yeah. These ones probably aren't from Toronto, Canada. All right, I'm going to put this hedgehog away and clean my hand off. All right, our next animal. So this animal is an incredibly dangerous animal. So everybody needs to stay seated. Can everybody take a seat, please? This animal is, ew, I got poop on my shirt too. Nobody told me? Oh my goodness. Nobody was going to help me out here. You could take that here. No. I'm just kidding. So this next animal, very dangerous. Humongous animals. So everybody might want to take a step back because it could be 10 feet long.
A crocodile?
It is gigantic. It has the jaw strength to crack right through your entire body. This animal is gigantic. Just watch out. Here it comes. Are you guys ready? Just kidding. So one day he could be very big. So remember, let's try to be quiet. This is a baby American alligator, actually. So the way that you could tell them apart, because I hear a lot of people saying it's a crocodile. So the way you tell them apart, if everybody does a V shape with their hands, can everybody do a V shape above their head? I can't do it because I'm holding them. A V-shaped snout would be a crocodile. They have a long pointed snout, and you could see both their top and bottom teeth. But if you do a U shape with your hands, that's an alligator. And alligators usually have an overbite, which means you can see their top teeth. Now these guys live in the swamps of Florida and other places in the south, and these are big apex predators. Can everybody say apex predator? That means that they are at the top of the food chain. Nothing else really picks on them, and they can eat anything they want. Now these guys, like I said, can be 10 to 15 feet long. That'd be like if a person my height was standing on my shoulders. They can be that big. Their jaw strength, strongest in the animal kingdom. If they bit your hand, it'd be like dropping a truck on you. If they hit you with their tail, they can break cement and even, right through your body as well. And on their back, can everybody say osteoderms? They have these hard scales that are bone. And those bones on their back protect them against like a bite from a bigger alligator or from anything that's trying to hurt them. Now, can everybody say countershading? You might know this feature in like animals like great white sharks or penguins. It's when they're dark on top and light on the bottom to blend in with their aquatic environment. So if he was sitting on top of the water and a bird was flying overhead, he might look like a rock or like a twig or something like that, so they might not see him. If you're swimming below him and looking up, you want to come over here, then he might look like the sky or maybe the sun pouring in on the water. So they can blend in with both sides of their environment, which is pretty cool. Now this guy, like an apex predator, he's going to be looking for little fish, maybe little amphibians, and then once he gets bigger, he could take down alligators and like deer and stuff that run by the water. So they're very strong predators. Now this guy was being kept as a pet illegally, so you shouldn't own one as a pet for your own safety. Like I said, they can get very dangerous, and you would be no match for a fully grown alligator. And these guys also, if you had one as a pet, which you should not, they live 70 to 80 years as well. So a very long time. Questions now. We got some questions? Yeah. Do you have a question? Because it sounds like you're going to tell me a story. All right, hold it for later. Let's see, right here. Why is it not green? So not all crocodiles and alligators are green. Coloration, so the color of your skin, usually correlates to the color of your environment. So this animal lives in a dark, murky environment where it's very dirty. That's why they're this color. But if they lived like maybe amongst trees and like grass and stuff, then what color do you think they would be? Green. Yeah, so there you go. Good question. Yes, over here. Do you want to come back? You want to try? Okay, try to remember it. One more question. If your question is if they're in Canada, they're not. Is that your question? What's your question? Here, let's give them some quiet, please, so I can... You have a reptile and it's a tortoise? That's pretty cool. This is a different reptile, but in the same family. Yeah. That's a great question. They asked if when they're older, are we going to keep them or not? This is actually one of the only animals that we couldn't keep if it did get to a fully grown size, because we don't have a big enough place for that. So we'd have to find somewhere in like Texas or Florida or something like that. All right, can everybody say see you later, alligator? See you later. All right, we're moving on to our last few animals. So I need everybody really quiet. Okay, so this animal is very small, and it comes from a place in South America where there's a lot of big predators around that are trying to hunt it. So they don't like when they hear loud noises because it might mean that you guys are trying to eat it. So let's be really quiet. Shh. I need everybody to stay seated because I am going to put her up on this table, but everybody needs to stay seated, okay? Talking to you in the front row, okay? It is a big blue towel.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not. You got me. All right, let's be really quiet for Tippy. I'm putting the towel down so that she doesn't slip and slide on the plastic table. So everybody stay seated, please. Tippy is a 3-banded armadillo. So remember, thumbs up if you like this animal. So this is a 3-banded armadillo. They live in places like Peru and Brazil in rainforest areas. So places where they can find a lot of like fallen trees and leaves and a lot of dirt to live in. They are what we call insectivores. Can everybody say insectivore? An insectivore is an animal that likes to eat what? What do you think? Bugs, yeah, they love eating bugs. So for them, they have a really long tongue because they like eating ants. So they'll stick that long tongue into holes that ants live in, maybe some bark on the tree, and they'll try to fish basically with their tongue for little animals. And now they love those bugs too. They can't really open their mouth that wide, so they only can usually eat like tiny little bugs. Now this animal is hunted by predators like jaguars and ocelots and bush dogs, but they have a really cool defense. This shell of theirs is very hard. If you try to take a bite out of it with our teeth, you might hurt yourself. They can roll into a ball and protect their soft belly from predators, And also, by rolling into a ball, it helps them keep warm, too. Now, what this shell is made out of, they kind of look like turtles or roly-polies, but their shell is completely different. Everybody feel your fingernails. Are they pretty hard? Yeah, well, imagine if you had super thick fingernails all over your body. That's basically what they have. It's a very thick, keratinized structure. 1 second, okay? 1 second. So that keratinized structure keeps them protected. And they even have it on their arms and legs, and they have a lot of armor. Now, these guys like to live in holes in the ground, so little burrows. But since their body is a little hard for them to dig, big holes, they wait for other armadillos or other animals to move out of their holes, and then they move in. So these guys are opportunistic when it comes to finding a place to live. Now, I'll show you they can roll into a ball very easily, and their head and their tail fit together almost perfectly. What they can do when they're in a ball is if a predator tries to reach for them, they might not be able to grab them or bite them very easily. And if they get too close, the armadillo can pull its long claws out, pull the predator in, and pinch them. So you have to watch out because these guys can pinch you very easily as well. Now, armadillos are in a group of animals known as zoonarthans, and that includes anteaters, other armadillos, and sloths as well. So it's a very big grouping of animals that are known all across South America. Now, Tippy, the armadillo, is being kept as a pet for a little bit. Not a legal pet, an animal that you're not allowed to have as a pet. And the thing is, with taking it in a wild animal like this, even if it's cute and maybe it likes you, you're not only interfering with this animal's life, but you're also interfering with the species as a whole. So say if you wanted to get a pet like this, and you had one, and you were posting pictures of it, and someone else saw it and was like, wow, I want one too. And then someone else, and then someone else, and someone else, and so on and so forth. You're going to cause a lot of these animals to be taken from their homes. So do you think you would want to be taken from your home, from your parents, from your friends, and brought to another land where you have no idea where you're at? No, it would not be very pleasant. So these animals should stay in the wild, where they can continue to live and survive like we do in our own environment. All right, do we have any questions for Tippy here? Yes. She looks like corn. That's a very good observation, and I could see that. Definitely. Awesome, over here. Why did I put the blue towel? Well, she kind of walks around on her tippy toes. That's why we call her Tippy. And this table would kind of make it hard for her to walk around. So this towel kind of helps her a little bit. Yeah.
Isn't a pangolin similar to an armadillo?
They are similar, but they're completely unrelated. They're not like even cousins. Awesome. Anything else? Yeah, in the back. That's just because her nails are super long. So she actually couldn't, even if she tried. And did you have a question too? There you go. I don't want to do that for too long because they don't really like to be picked up that much. A couple more, yeah, right here. Here, wait, in the green first, then I'll get to you, okay?
The fingers kind of look like a crab's pinchers.
Kinda, yeah, good observation. Yeah, what's up? Did you have another one? Uh-huh. He might be was trying to pinch me or smell me too. They have a really strong sense of smell, and I might have a lot of animal stuff on me from working with a bunch of them. So she might be smelling something that's on my clothes. Good observation as well. And then lastly, did you have something too? Why does she? So if something was trying to eat you, do you think you just let it eat you? No, you're going to fight back, right? So that's the way of them fighting back, is by pinching their predators. Awesome. Okay, everybody say bye to Tippy. Okay, this animal, the next one I'm going to bring out, is very important. Everybody needs to be seated. Everybody needs to be seated and as quiet as possible. That's because I can actually get hurt by this animal right now if you guys are not very quiet and very still. This animal can see better, can hear better than you. It's faster than you. It can maneuver way better than you can, so we need to be very quiet so it doesn't get scared. 1 second, okay? Hands down. How about everybody just zip their lips, zip them. Lock it. Throw away the key. All right, let's be really quiet. Shh. I said quiet, hands down. I'll answer. If you know what it is, just think about it in your head. Really quiet, everybody. And now, I know that everybody's going to get super excited when she comes out. So everybody just put your hands in the air, put your thumbs up, maybe cover your mouths. Let's be really quiet. Talking to you parents too. It's usually you guys that get excited as well. So we have to be really quiet. And if you're quiet, you can hear her talking to me too as I'm taking her out. Step up. So let's be really quiet. Shh. This is Lucy. Lucy is a Eurasian eagle owl. So the reason why we have Lucy is because she was born at a bird sanctuary where she wasn't able to be housed there anymore. So we've actually had her since she was a little tiny fledgling. And I say tiny, but that's compared to how she is now. She was still pretty big when we got her. Now these animals are one of the largest species of owls in the entire world. As you can see, they have a massive wingspan that allows them to fly pretty quietly too. These guys are birds of prey. So your birds of prey include owls, hawks, falcons, eagles, and they all have similar characteristics that make them who they are. For one, very strong talons. They can lift something double their weight in their talons alone. Now, she only weighs 5 pounds, but that means that she could pick something up that's around 10 to 15 pounds, actually. So, shh. We want to be really quiet. She has a sharp beak that's good for pulling apart food. Very strong vision, so she could find her food. But what makes an owl unique from, say, a hawk or a falcon is a few things. For one, her talons, can everybody very quietly say, zygodactyl? That means she got 2 toes in the front, 2 in the back, so she's very good at walking on branches, and also she could swivel this toe. So this toe, if I could find it, goes back and forth, kind of like our thumbs do. So she's very good at using her talons. Owls also have very good hearing compared to other birds, and that's because of the shape of their face. So everybody take their hand and cup their ear. And she pooped. But when you cup your ear like that, you can actually hear better. It's because when you cup your ear, it allows sound waves to bounce off your hand, and it makes them louder, actually. So by the cups around her eyes, she could actually increase the sound of what she hears around her and direct it towards her ears. One of her ears is a little bit higher than the other as well, so they can tell how high or how low an animal or a noise is that they're hearing. Now, what owls like to do, hands down, you're going to scare her. What they like to do is they like to sit in a tree for a long time. They're spinning their head around because they have 14 bones in their neck, twice as many as we do. They're scanning their environment, listening, looking, and when they find something, you're going to get eaten, little man. Now, these guys can see everything around them and hear everything, and when they take off, it's very quiet. You can't even hear their wings. And that's because they have serrated feathers. And that means they have little spaces in between. Hand down. I'll answer your question. Don't worry. Everybody cup their hand like this and kind of flap in your ear. Do you hear it go boom, 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 boom? You got to get right to your ear. That's because we're clapping the air, basically. We're smacking the air and we're making a noise. But if you spread your fingers out as wide as you can and do the same thing, it makes the sound a lot quieter because the wind can cut right through your fingers. That's the same idea with her feathers. When she flaps her wings, she doesn't really make a noise. She probably sees the animals below us too right here. Now these birds of prey will live around into their 20s, and they have huge territories spanning from Europe all the way to China. This is a very successful bird and also very large. All right, do we have I'm going to put her away first. just to make it a little bit easier for her and myself. All right, so let me just tie this up real quick. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Owls?
Is it a question? Tell me later. I love to talk about animals, but we got to ask questions. We're trying to learn new things. Let's see.
So, what's going through that tube?
What's going through that tube? That's where this little table skirt goes. You're welcome. Can we sit down, please? Any questions about the owl? Yeah.
Why does his feather go up when his wings go up?
Why do his feathers go up when his wings go up? That's a good point. Now, if you saw an animal that was maybe a little bit bigger than you, or someone was trying to bully you or something, unfortunately, what might do? What might you do to make yourself look bigger? You maybe like puff up your chest, maybe put your arms out, maybe just stand up higher. So for her, she's trying to make herself look bigger so that she could scare anything that's trying to hurt her. So for her, it's her feathers that flare up, and she flaps her wings, and she looks very big and very threatening. Good question. Yeah. Why does she have such big eyes? Because they need those eyes to find their food. They're eating rabbits and stuff like that, and those rabbits can be very hard to spot when they're running around in fields. So her big eyes, which are kind of like ours in the fact that they use two eyes at one thing, those two eyes are looking for little tiny movements from little tiny animals. So they need to be very big so they can be very strong. Yes? Why does she wake up at night? Because their eyes have been specially developed to do this, to see at night. They have really cool reflective panels, basically, you could say, in the back of their eye, which reflect light so they can actually see at night. It's pretty cool. One more, yeah. How what?
How many babies?
They usually have around 2 babies. Yeah. So we have Lucy and Ethel, and they are both sisters that came to us about a couple years ago. All right. Now I'm bringing out my last animal. Now I want to see who could be the best behaved during this part, because you might get to volunteer for something if you're very quiet and very well behaved. So this animal loves eating carrots. Now I need to see who's being the best behaved. Raise your hand if you want to volunteer to come and help me. Let's see. Who's been really good and really well behaved this whole time? Let's see. I think you have been pretty well behaved. We'll get 3 people maybe. 3 people that could come up. Who's been really good? You've been pretty good. You could come up here. And one more. Let's see who's been really well behaved. Let's see, you've been pretty good behaved too. I haven't heard much out of you. Okay, so here, we're going to sit down. We're going to sit down. So I'm going to give you guys some carrot pieces. Now I'm going to try to break them up so that it doesn't take a long time for them to eat this. So hold that and that. Don't eat it, please. It's for the animal. And then here, you could hold that piece, okay? So you guys are going to hand this animal that piece one at a time after they're done eating. This is Mabel. She's one of the animals that was born at the Wildlife Learning Center. Come on, baby. So come here. Come hand her the piece. You can hold it in the tip of your finger and hand her the piece. Okay, you can go sit down. Thank you. So after she's done with that piece, okay, you could eat it. You could give it to her. So this is Mabel. Here, let me get her on the table so she doesn't feel like she's falling down. You're okay. There you go. So Mabel is a North American porcupine. Let's be really quiet. They are also a rodent, just like the chinchilla that we brought out earlier. This rodent is found all across North America, living in like forested areas, in hilly areas with a lot of bushes, and a lot of different environments in North America. They are known for their hair. They have 3 types of hair. These guard hairs, which are like whiskers. So that helps her kind of feel around when she can't see as well. Here, you want to hand her another piece? Then you can go sit down after, please. She has her insulating fur, which is all... Here, can I have you guys sit down, please? You guys sit down, please. Hi. Can you sit down? Now, they have insulating fur, which keeps them warm. And this is one of the only porcupines that can live in cold areas because of that fur. And then she has her quills. Her head all the way to her tail. You can give her that piece. Want to give her that piece? From her head to her tail, on her arms, coming out of her ears, she has quills, which are a type of hair that are very sharp. And those quills will protect her against predators. But she doesn't like to use them at first. She wants to save those hairs until she has to, because they're hard to make. So what they'll do is they pee everywhere. They pee and mark their territory. That'll tell predators, don't come near me. And also, if a predator gets too close, they'll start grunting. They'll be like this. And if that doesn't work, kind of like the eagle, they start getting very big. So they spread out their quills, and then they go, and they start spinning around in circle. And if that doesn't work, then they could smack that predator with their tail, and that predator would get a face full of quills. Now, those quills have tiny little hooks on them. So when they go into your skin, or into a bear's skin, or into a fox's skin, they don't come out. But we have thumbs. So everybody show me your thumbs. Wiggle them around. Say, thank you, thumbs. We can pull stuff out of our skin, like if a cactus got us or a porcupine got us, we can pull them out. And if a porcupine got you, you'd want to pull it out right away. Because remember, they pee on everything, even themselves. And when they do that, those quills get very dirty, and they can make you very sick if you don't take them out. But for a dog, or a fox, or a bobcat, or a bear, do they have thumbs? Again, thank you, thumbs. A bear or a fox or a bobcat wouldn't be able to take those quills out of their face. They're going to scratch at them, and they'll just go deeper because they can't pull them out. So usually when an animal messes with the porcupine, they'll never do it again because it's not worth it to get all those quills to your face. Now, I don't know if you guys can notice, maybe the kids in the front can, but they have orange teeth. And just like the chinchilla, they have teeth that keep growing their entire life. And their teeth aren't orange because of the carrots. It's actually because their teeth are comprised of iron. Where our teeth are comprised of calcium and turn white in the air, their teeth turn orange. Kind of like if you leave a bike out in the rain for too long, they'll start to rust. Their teeth are actually rusting as well. So they're very strong for that reason, and they can chew on things like bark. Because in the wild, when there's not a lot of leaves around, they might have to chew on bark. Do you guys think our teeth can handle that? No, it would hurt a lot. So their teeth are good for eating bark and getting to the nice sweet stuff under the bark of the tree. All right, does anybody have any questions for Mabel here? Yeah. Not always. It might take a while for them to develop into that orange color. Good question. Yeah, right here. What does it eat? Can everybody say herbivore again? It likes to eat like plants. Like leaves, bark, pine nettles, roots, anything that they could find that's a part of a plant usually. Awesome. Let's see. Yeah. So spiky. Do you think you want to take a bite out of a spiky porcupine? No. That's why. It protects them. Yeah. This color right here. They look exactly like this, just really tiny and a lot cuter. I got to see Mabel when she was a little baby. She was adorable. Yeah. Besides just carrots, do you remember right here, what else do they eat? Leaves and bark and stuff like that. Awesome. Yeah. They have 3, remember? Because they all help to serve a different purpose. These hairs help them feel things. The brown hair helps them stay warm. And then the white little quills help them protect themselves against predators. Great question. One more question, yeah, right here.
Bark isn't a plant.
Bark comes from a plant, though, doesn't it? Yeah. So they eat plant material. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to put Mabel away now. And as you can see, I can pick her up because they don't have quills on their stomach or under their armpits. Go in. There you go. Give her a little carrot to eat. All righty. So that was actually the last animal. But before we all go, I want to leave you guys with just a little message, a little bit of encouragement. I hope that you guys all like the animals that you saw here today. Even if you didn't like these animals, I hope you like animals altogether in general. And I want to ask you that if you care about animals, if you say you care about animals, then start bringing them up more. Start talking about these animals. If you see your friend that wasn't here tonight, tell them what you saw, tell them what you learned. If you see your classmates when school starts again, teach them about these animals and start bringing them up in conversation. Because when people learn about these animals, they tend to care about these animals. If we care about these animals, then we can help save these animals. Because like I said earlier, there's over 1 million different species of animals that are going extinct on this planet today. And you know what's the main cause? Point to yourself. We are. We're the reason why these animals are going extinct. There's no other animal that does as much damage as we do than, say, mosquitoes. But other than that, we are very bad for our environment. And that's because a lot of people just don't care. So if we could teach about these animals and learn and continue bringing them up in conversation, maybe we can care more about them. So if you want to come visit the Wildlife Learning Center, we're in Sylmar, not too far from here, and we have tons of different animals that you can come and meet and learn about. Again, my name is Mickey from the Wildlife Learning Center. Thank you all for coming out tonight. If you have any questions, you could quietly and slowly come up to me at the end to try to ask questions. I'm going to hand it off right here to Jill if she has any last words for you guys.